Hi, this is Dennis, and welcome to another episode of the Grounded Reason podcast, where every Monday, Joel and I talk about cord cutting, new consumer technology, and other issues and topics concerning citizens of the interwebs. Today, we're going to talk about the long-promised AirTV, and we're also going to cover a little good news and bad news for cord cutters that happened this week at the FCC. But first, Joel and I moved out of the basement.
Yay!
We're in Grounded Reason headquarters.
Yeah, across the street.
Right, we have an office. We have an office.
Yeah, it's like a grown-up space.
Yeah, it's like we're all adults now.
Yeah.
You know? So if the sound's a bit different this week, we'll work that out over time.
Yeah, we're figuring it out.
It might be better. You know, who knows? Yeah. So we'll see once this hits post. Future Dennis will make this okay.
Yeah, well, future Dennis fixes many things.
So I wanted to talk about some stuff, because the AirTV has been promised for weeks now.
Yeah, several weeks.
Yeah, and I've been using it. And actually, I looked at the wife yesterday, and I was like, well, you know, I think we've used this long enough. I can plug the Roku back in. And she's like, no. She likes it. She wants,
really?
Yeah. Like I'm kind of, I mean, I like having the antenna connection, which we'll all get into in a minute. But I was kind of either or. They're both very good devices, but she seems to be a fan. So
yeah, because you had the Roku 4, right?
No, I just upgraded it to the Premiere Plus.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
See previous episode where we go through all of the crazy marketing breakouts of the various Rokus.
Yes, that episode is just called Roku. So.
Yeah, creatively named Roku.
Right, so it's hard to miss that one. But before we get into AirTV, I wanted to talk about our friends at the FCC, Ajit Pai, and some things that happened up there this week, or down there, depending on where you are.
Are we sure he's one person?
Well, no, we're not.
He's not like Shakespeare, where there's a conspiracy that he's multiple people wrote all the plays.
We need a segment called Good Ajit, Bad Ajit, where
I totally think we should.
I wish I was better at impressions, and I don't want to do that anyway because he's Indian. And
I don't know.
That wouldn't be kosher.
That would come off the wrong way.
Yeah. So do you want to do? I mean, is it Bad Ajit first or Good Ajit first?
Yeah, just because that's the order I read them in.
All right, Bad Ajit. So we did an episode on this actually.
Yeah.
You know, the sorely missed former Chairman Wheeler really pushed hard on getting cable box reform done.
Yep.
And it started when, I can't remember their names, unfortunately, but two senators basically pushed for a report on how much every person pays for these cable box rental fees every month.
It's actually insane.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you can check back. We did the cable boxes and corruption episode. You know, and we talked about this, and it was like $20-some average person per month.
Yeah, and
that's crazy. That's like $250 a year for every person in the United States, and cable companies are making a killing.
So this was something in the article you sent me about this that I don't remember who it was, but there was a tweet that was like embedded in the article, and the person had called out that, well, it's about $200 a year, right? Mm-hmm. So $200 to $250 a year for a person to have a cable box. And if you think about that, there's 100 million-ish, right? It's a little under that. It's like 98 million subscribers in the country. That's $20 to $25 billion worth of revenue.
Billion dollars.
With a B.
You know.
That comes just from having cable boxes out there. So
for renting a device you would never rent if you had to.
No, the thing's ugly as sin. I mean, like, and I'm not pretty, so for me to call it out is ugly.
Like I said, it's the only thing left with those red digital numbers. in someone's house.
And so,
like those, remember the alarm clock digital red numbers? Who puts that on electronics these days?
Yeah, it looks like one of the devices from war games, right?
It has the Whopper.
Yeah.
It looks like the Whopper.
And so like, it's surprise, the cable companies don't want to get rid of them.
No, because it's a huge cash cow for them to sell and rent this antiquated equipment.
$20 billion. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, so I know Wheeler was pushing for them to get just an app, like where the cable company could put together an app, and then that app would be usable on third-party devices like TiVos, Roku's, Amazon, what have you. And there was a bunch of belly aching, of course, by these cable companies because, as we said, it's a huge cash cow. So it got tabled towards the end of last year because there was some legitimate licensing details that they needed to work out, but this wasn't something that couldn't have been worked out.
No, and the other thing is that like they could have begun developing the apps. Right?
Well, someone did, and I'll get to that in a bit because there's a little bit of a
I didn't know that.
Gotcha here with Comcast. But so Ajit has completely killed it.
Yeah. Well,
Chairman Ajit Pai.
Technically, he's taken it, what do they call it? It's not off the table, but all out of review.
Right. It's off the docket, essentially.
Completely dead.
No.
But it's effectively dead.
Right.
Right? Like, once it's out of review.
Wheeler's vision's not going to happen.
No. I think it's a procedural thing. I think you have to do one step. There's probably, like, a cooling off period. Then you have to do the next step.
Right.
But, like, what it effectively does is, like, it's not being processed through review internally anymore.
Right.
At the FCC.
Right. So, well, here's the thing, too. He tried to kill this by basically saying it's not fair because Facebook isn't regulated this way and Uber isn't regulated this way. It was like that argument because they're regulated by the FTC.
Again.
Because they're a different service altogether.
Right. They're regulated by the FTC.
Oh, I read something today on Forbes again. Forbes, I don't know, these guys are coming out of the woodwork about that, where the guy's like, the whole article is basically about how the FTC and the FCC should be regulating, the FTC should be regulating the internet and ISPs. And I'm just like, that's crazy. Like, why would you, like I said, it's like roads and McDonald's.
Yeah.
FDA regulates McDonald's. They have a drive-through. It's on a road. Do you want the FDA regulating highways?
Yeah, and there's seriously refer back to what was the last episode, like, because we rant and rave about that one for a half hour. It's just nuts, and not to mention the fact that the FTC is not actually able to regulate Title II.
Well, yes, because the courts told them, and we go into all that last episode. So I would check that out.
Check that out if you're interested in it.
But so with this one, this doesn't count as a removed regulation for like Donald Trump's one fish, like his Dr. Seuss way of regulating
one regulation, two regulation.
Well, yeah, because now you have to get rid of
regulation, blue regulation.
Exactly, because now you have to get rid for every regulation you want to put in place. You need to remove. And I was wondering, like, does it matter? Because we have I know, like, when we were doing software change management, basically releasing software, there was this ridiculous rule that you had to validate your software for 8 weeks. And
no matter what you're doing, which is bonkers.
That was it was a while ago, but it's complete bonkers, because if I test something 8,000 times in 8 weeks, and then I test something twice in 8 weeks, they're both good.
Right.
Because I waited 8 weeks.
Right.
And that's kind of what this regulation thing is kind of like. It's like, because what one regulation could be, 5 times more crippling to businesses than the 2 regulations you're removing, or vice versa.
Well, you know what it's going to do? Like, we're going to get off topic a little, but what it's going to do, right, having that standard in place where you have to take out 2 to put 1 in, is everyone is going to write regulations more granularly.
Oh, yeah,
right?
That's all they'll do.
They're going to break up bigger regulations into smaller ones so they can, a la carte, take out rules.
Or you'll write really fat regulations to put them in, and then look for, like, really thin sections
People
to pull
will
out.
game that like it's nothing.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring that up is because I'm wondering how well this executive order of red fish, two fish, whatever, one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish sort of regulations is going to play out when the FCC starts trying to, because Ajit has a very he has an agenda, and he's going to really change how things happen at the FCC, and I'm curious how that's going to play out when it comes to this new executive order on regulation, implementing and pulling out, and
Well, that sounds terrible.
I know. It sounded terrible. Let me say that again. With putting regulations in and taking regulations out.
Yeah, it's much better than pulling out.
Yeah,
we try and keep it clean here.
We do
on this episode.
We do. Oh, you don't even know all the dirty stuff I got to cut out of Joel's piece every week. His track is it's blue. The man works blue.
Yeah, I had a few moments, but So. This rule, I mean, it doesn't really factor into the new executive order because it never actually became a formalized regulation. But it is interesting, like just as a general topic, like what's going to happen? Like to meet that requirement, what are they going to do? Like just like look around for any FCC, OSHA-related, regulations and pull them out.
Is it completely
arbitrary?
No
one gets chairs, right? Like, it's just such a strange way to think about stuff.
Yeah, it's because it's completely detached from the business at hand.
Yeah,
but so I'm sorry, consumers. You're not going to get your dream of getting rid of the cable box anytime soon.
And that's really, I mean, like if you look at what did we say the average cable bill was, like $100, something like that.
Yeah, if it's just cable, roughly, right. But that, I mean, there's a wide.
So cable and internet's probably like $150.
Roughly. Yeah, I'd have to look. I mean, I'd have to go pull up the numbers to be sure.
But let's say it's something like that, and you're saying that like $20 of it is just having this box.
Oh yeah,
right.
You're talking 20%.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge.
Well, that's really where that's one of the big pieces of the price hike. When you see that promo price, it looks great. Where they're like, you can have internet and cable TV for $50 or whatever.
Right, they're not assessing that fee in there.
Well, yeah, and that fee is just one of many fees, but that's the largest chunk of the pie, the extra $20 there. But so Comcast obviously was working on this because when Wheeler was in town, they were working on putting an app together that people could use outside of the cable box. But here's the catch: they're going to charge people for it.
Oh.
So if you're going to use, when they come out with this app, they recently said, it's gonna come with a fee because they can't lose that sweet cable box rental fee money.
Well, that's the thing is you got to think of what that does to, and I'm not crying any rivers for these companies, right? But like from their perspective, they're looking at it and going, "That's a big hit to earnings per share."
It is a big hit to earnings per share, but I mean,
it still should be done, but
because I mean the reason why it's that way is because there was only one game in town for most people for a long time with
they've
cable
been fleecing
TV.
People for a long time,
right? So you had to take it.
Yeah.
That's just what it was.
And so I can't wait for that eventually to go away, but it looks like we're gonna have to. Right? Like, we're going to have to wait for another day because those fees aren't going away anytime soon because of bad Ajit.
Yeah. But
good Ajit.
Yeah, good. So good Ajit comes in and basically announces that a little bit of background. OTA, or over-the-air television, there's a standard, and we use ATSC 1.
Yep.
What's coming out, they've been working on, and I don't want to get into the specifics of why 2 was skipped, but ATSC 3 is the new standard they've been working on.
Well, okay. Can I back up for a second?
Sure.
So 1, if I understand correctly, was basically the standard that was used to get us from analog to digital.
Correct.
Right, like at a really, really high level.
Yeah, and remember, because back then, if for the kids out there, way back in 2009.
Oh, back in my day in 2009, I remember.
Yeah, I remember analog television. Well, the signals used to be analog, and everyone had to buy a new television or get a digital converter because they were going to switch the signals over to ATSC 1.0, which was digital. And cable companies were brilliant here because they started marketing it. Why don't you just get cable? We don't need to worry about the box. You're going to lose your local channels if you don't get cable. All kinds of stuff. So everyone, and if you look, you can just go look at a chart of cable subscribers and look at because the talk started around 2005. They eventually switched over 2009. You look at the period of growth there in cable TV, and it's off the charts.
Yep.
So so basically, when they went over to ATSC 1, that's when everyone, I remember my grandparents at the time were, are we going to be able to watch television?
Sure.
People were in doubt.
People don't know.
Well, they were getting scared too.
Exactly.
By, cable commercials are coming on saying you're not going to be able to watch TV anymore unless you buy this. But I digress. No.
If I remember correctly, version 2 was meant to be. I mean, again, at a very, very high level, it was meant to be backwards compatible.
Right, but it never really...
I don't think it ever actually got implemented.
Well, because what they did, they started making progress with 2.
Right.
And then there was, the idea of... Because what makes 3 really cool, and this is a little bit... I mean, we're getting in the nerd weeds here.
Yeah, this is pretty wonky.
It is. But the new standard works like... It uses the TCP/IP framework.
Yep.
So you'll be able to leverage a lot of basically those technologies will be compatible with things that run over the internet.
How about this? You'll be able to watch over-the-air television on your mobile devices.
Yeah, yeah, you will.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah. And from the air, you don't need
just walking around.
You don't need to run it through an HD home run or a Tableau or anything else. You can just catch it on your phone. That's possible with this new standard.
And so good Ajit is pushing this.
Yes, he is. He is saying that ATSC 3 will be out this year. And the reason I went into the whole rigmarole about, the transition to digital is because we will have to do that again.
Yeah, and that was actually one of the things that was interesting about this is that if I understand what he wrote an op-ed.
Yeah, in multi-channel news.
Yeah. And what he's arguing for is a period of time where the providers can move to the new standard optionally.
Yeah, it's a voluntary thing. Yeah. But they have to be backwards. If they do, they need to be backwards compatible with ATSC 1.
So I think that's smart.
It is.
I think you do it over 3-4 years, it happens pretty naturally.
Yeah, and people won't be forced into... Because you're going to have to get a new tuner.
Yeah.
To use this.
And that's what freaked everybody out back in the day is nobody knew what kind of tuner they had in their television.
Right. But nowadays, I think anyone who has an antenna is probably...
It's pretty wise to it.
They're savvy enough to know that because they're not going to fall for the cable TV trick because, they've been through that
They've already
before.
seen that movie before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so this is why I maintain, and I could be wrong, but I got my tinfoil hat.
I always have mine on.
And it's on. I'm saying Ajit is 2 people.
He is.
Because this
good
second thing is good Ajit, and it's actually really cool for consumers. Right. It gives us more choice. It's going to give us a better service. It's going to be generally a really positive thing.
It would, totally.
The aforementioned...
But we need to say why.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I thought everyone just got the goodness.
It is, because we were exuding goodness.
Just the mobile device thing.
Well, that's one thing. But you're talking about...
awesome.
That's it. It's enough. It's going to give enough bandwidth to put 4K video over the air.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And not only that, but you're going to get reception improvements. You're going to be able to send that signal further.
Yep.
it's gonna be really good for cord cutters.
That actually means, a lot more people will be able to get access to like what is currently broadcast. So our friends at TV Fool, right?
Yeah, the one we did the episode on.
Yep, they'll have their really cool website that talks about how far out the signal is viable for anyone using an antenna.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to recalculate everything.
Oh yeah, I wonder how that's gonna work out because man, I'm gonna have to redo my entire blog because I refer to them all the time.
They're just trying to keep you busy over at the FCC.
Yeah, that's what they always do. I mean, if I'm not writing articles, trashing them.
Yeah, well,
this is actually a good one. And that's what the thing is like, we're really hard on Chairman Pai.
It's issue by issue, man.
It really is. And that's what I try to do. I'm trying to be fair with this stuff.
He's a bright dude. Don't get me wrong.
Very bright dude. He's totally qualified for this job.
Do not get the cable box thing.
Yes.
That's bonkers.
Well, it's business.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very pro-business. And I say, and I've called him anti-consumer because it angers me, but really, let's be fair, he's pro-business, and that's kind of what it is. And
this other thing is pretty pro-consumer or whatever you would call it, right? Like, so it's definitely, and he also, and like I've read a bunch of his like previous op-eds going back to when did he join in 2012 is when he joined the FCC?
Yeah, Obama appoint. I'd have to go look at the exact date. He's an Obama appointee.
I think it was then. But anyways, I read back to the beginning of it, and he's always had a soft spot in his heart for over-the-air television, and I'm not sure why exactly. Like, what about that part of the FCC's job attracts him to it? But it is a great service, right? Like, it's a wonderful thing that we have in this country. So it is good that he's pushing the agenda with it.
Yeah. Well, because it's an easy way to get TV and media to people.
Yeah. And a lot of TV that we all like. Again,
like 80% of watch TV is on network television and broadcast over the air.
I will say I don't want to rave too much like over Mr. Pai because the first thing we talked about from bad Ajit is pretty bad.
Oh yeah, right? It is. I'm trying to be fair here because he did something good. Ajit did something good because he's good Ajit, but he has a pretty bad track record when it comes to things consumers want.
Well, and even more specifically, like just from reading his prior works, I'm most concerned about what we talked about last week with just all the net neutrality, like broader internet.
That's the real issue.
Related, like I'm not too worried about anything he has, any opinions he has about over-the-air television. I think he's solid. And I think the broader telephone data-related things, he's kind of a mixed bag, but not terrible.
No, could get worse, but we could have worse.
Yeah, but he's pretty awful when it comes to the net neutrality issue.
Yes, I think it just really comes to the fundamental misunderstanding that a lot of people have about the difference between the pipes and the services, how they're two separate things, which we covered. And that's usually where this mix-up comes in. When I run into somebody and I fundamentally disagree with them on net neutrality, typically because they have that view that the internet is just this one thing, and they don't look at it as like an infrastructure of roads and then things that are provided over top of those roads.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And to ignore that fact is detrimental to regulating the internet. So
I agree.
So the FCC talk, we've had a lot of it these past few weeks.
Yeah, and can we move on to
We're going to move on to AirTV.
Yeah, I said this last week. Every time we talk about the regulators and especially the current political situation and all this, I felt like for 4 weeks we've been a downer.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, it's been it's
good
been,
response out there from people, though.
Oh, totally great response.
Yeah.
The Facebook page, the article that I put together on basically the plan that Isonoc came up with to move those
It's unbelievable the amount of comments.
It's gotten like 2,000 shares. Like, it's all over the place.
Yeah, and really, okay, to be corny for a second, just want to say thank you to all of you out there, especially like anyone who's rated or reviewed us in iTunes or emailed us.
Yeah, it's really great to know because the
Facebook comments, all that.
Yeah, because Joel and I are sitting here talking to each other into microphones, and we have no idea who's out there listening, and it's really awesome when someone writes in and, even if you ask a question, like, you don't even need to say, I like the show. You could just ask a question about a show, and then we know you're listening, and then we're like, hey.
We've had a couple, I believe they were all men, but fine gentlemen who have actually said some things where we got called a couple names. And, and even those fellas, I'm still like, hey, you know what?
At least they're listening.
At least they're listening. Like, they're talking to us. Like, that is a response, and I will take it, right?
That's exactly right.
So, it just... Before we get into it, I just wanted to say thanks, everyone. And I'm done with my public service announcement.
Yeah. So subscribe.
I should actually say that, right?
Like, subscribe to the podcast, especially in iTunes, because that's how we get visibility. That's how we get visibility. Because we actually made it into the top 100 in tech.
Yeah,
last week.
We've done that a few times, but only a few. Right?
And usually it's on the buttress of one of us being on a show.
Yeah, the last
another show
one we had.
Like I was interviewed.
You were interviewed on, what was it?
Paychecks and Balances. Great podcast, by the way.
Really good
if you're into like personal finance,
which I am, and so. Good work out there.
And that's really selling them short. It's really about managing money, like, in today's world. Like, kind of, your career. It covers a lot of bases. But the two guys, Rich and Marcus, they're fantastic. I recommend checking them out.
And they were, good enough to have Dennis on, do an interview. And we got, a little spike there and got up into the ratings. But... for whatever reason, this last episode we had got another nice spike and we got back in the ratings. So if you like what we're doing, we'd love to see you go out there and rate and review us, because it's what gives us that, feeling like, hey, we're not yelling at the rain.
Right. Not yelling into a void.
Yeah. Well, I do that too. But it's, I scream into my pillow when I watch the news.
I've been trying to get you to stop that.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
I mean,
so AirTV.
AirTV is from Dish Network, makers of Sling TV. And they came out at CES this year and unveiled a device that really is like an Android TV box, which allows you to do streaming, integrated with a over-the-air antenna adapter, and the idea is basically to pull in your over-the-air TV channels with your streaming content.
Yeah, and as we talked about it last time, I still don't know how that... Like, seriously, 5 years ago, I would have been like, burn them as a steak.
Right, yeah.
They're witches.
He would have thrown... the network, the board of Sling into a river to see if they floated.
Who are you so wise in the way of science? Sorry for the Monty Python quotes, but
so basically this device, its interface is heavily Sling related.
Sure,
of course. But you don't need Sling to use it,
right? But if you have familiarity with one,
well, it opens you up when you first install it, which is really easy to do. Let me start there. When I got this device, all I really needed to do was kind of hook up the HDMI cable to the television, plug it in, hook the antenna up, turned it on, and it walks you step by step through, each section. It scans. You don't have to press anything but OK. I mean, they did a really good job.
Hallmark of good design.
Right.
Like, if I have to read instructions, probably not going to go well.
And for something that's got to, first, they got to hook into, they got to hook onto your network, and then they gotta like integrate with your Google Play Store because it's an Android device, and Android is Google. Yeah. So and then to like pick up your antenna and then scan for all your channels. And here's the kicker: this is what I really loved, because I'm going on about this because that's pretty common. But the next screen told me what kind of TV I had, and automatically programmed the remote.
Now that's impressive.
Yeah, because usually you got to go look up that 3-digit code and like press it and like.
So there's two headaches that this being the second that this thing eliminates. The first one to me was like that you got to pivot between, and I still have to do this because I've got regular TV and I've got my Roku, which gets me into all my streaming stuff because I don't have an AirTV.
Right.
And I have to go to TV input and switch back and forth. And like my 7-year-old, who is brilliant, can do everything else on the TV. Can navigate Netflix, Amazon Prime, anything he wants. But for some reason, the TV input thing doesn't work out.
The TV, that's not uncommon. The TV input thing has been the demise of human beings for like 15 years now.
Yeah.
Like I've seen, like, my dad, kind of like lose his mind over like what input is. If you go over someone's house and you don't know how the entertainment system is wired up, you're hitting input for like 20 minutes
or whatever.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it is the television equivalent of the classic slasher movie. You're being chased by someone. And you get out your keys and you can't get them in the car door, right?
You are like, not watching Seinfeld.
You're just not going to make it out, right? Like you're just, and you're freaking out like I'm hitting TV input and nothing's happening, right? Because that's what humans do. It doesn't work. It didn't work the last 10 times I pushed it. Right. I'm going to keep. I wait half a second for it to load. Especially again, I got a 7-year-old. He does it. I'm not a patient person. A 7-year-old version of me is extremely impatient. And so he clicks TV input and he's going 100 miles per hour, right? So
I think that's why we get angry at our kids.
Yeah.
Because they make us feel bad about ourselves.
Yeah.
Because they're like, yes, that's the worst version of me right there.
That is the version of me. That is the, .02 version of me. And hasn't figured out to wait on the input to load, right? And so the fact that AirTV takes your antenna and all of your streaming services and puts it in one interface, it's amazing.
Yep.
And again, it's voodoo. I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing. The second thing, and this blows my mind because listeners, I'm getting this. This is like off the press. I did not know that they integrated with your remote. That's crazy.
Oh well, yeah. I knew the remote can control your television, which was great. Like I was like, sign me up.
But that it recognized that blew me away. That's nuts.
And it was. And like right after that
that's
screen,
not easy to do.
I was controlling my power and volume on the television with the AirTV remote.
I've got the Roku remote. We call it, in my house, we call it the purple remote and the circle remote.
Yeah, and the Roku remote, while I love the...
it's got purple buttons.
I love the private listening where you can plug a headphone jack in.
Yeah.
I still hate that remote. It just feels like a kid's toy.
Well, it doesn't. So here's the thing: the circle remote, which is the regular television, right? Mm-hmm. It controls the volume and the TV input.
Right. Well, we were that way too before we had the AirTV.
Until we got all fancy pants on me. But the Roku is where we watch all of our television, right? So you gotta get it on what you want. And then throw it away, and then go turn up the volume.
Yeah.
adjust the volume accordingly.
Use the bad remote until we need the good remote.
Right.
That's pretty much what you do.
And so I'm impressed. Continue.
So
I digress.
So it doesn't end there. If you have like an audio system, the next screen detects that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you want to control volume, if you don't want to do the volume on the TV, you want to do it when you're like, say you have like a Bose or whatever, it'll pick that up too. So,
and I don't have one, but I know people that do, like have home theaters.
And this was designed by a satellite company. I was shocked.
Yeah.
I got this thing and I was like, ugh. Like, I can't wait to tear this review apart. No, they did a good job. I mean, they did a really good job designing this device.
I mean, like, from the descriptions, and I had not actually, to this point, I don't think I've actually read any reviews of it.
It's not a lot out there. And I think, here's the thing, and this is one fault of cable pay TV. Mm-hmm. They kind of keep things close to the vest.
Yeah. You
can only buy this thing on the AirTV website. Like, I went out on Amazon, and the thing came out like almost a month ago. And I'm figuring, it's out on Amazon. No, you can only get it through the AirTV website.
It's really strange.
It really is. So I think that's probably why not too many people.
I wonder why they do that. That seems so counterintuitive. I mean,
we're talking about the pay TV industry here.
Yeah, I'm assuming what it is they get a higher margin, obviously, if they don't include a middleman like Amazon.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous. Because
I know it's ridiculous.
If you look at it and you say Amazon has like this huge,
of course,
market,
much larger customer base.
Exactly. Like, why wouldn't you?
But why would you think logically if you did this sort of thing?
It's this very like walled garden inside the vest thing that they all.
But nevertheless, I'm impressed that they
did a fantastic job.
Like this.
So when you fire the thing up and you get it's one, there are a couple cons, because I know I'm saying the thing is great. There are a couple.
And you're actually putting an article out.
I did. It actually, yes, it was published on Friday.
Okay.
So so it's out there, and it's pretty much, I kind of gush over it a bit there too, but there are some some negatives, and I'll get to those at the end. But when you go into it, actually, I'll cover one now. And I think I alluded to this earlier. It's very Sling TV heavy. Right. So if you're used to the Sling TV way of doing things, you'll be fine. It's like it feels natural. If you haven't used Sling TV, it's a bit of a learning curve.
Okay.
Just the way it's designed. But after like a day or two of using it, and I'm speaking from like my wife's perspective, because she, like, I've used Sling a few times, but she hasn't, and it took her like a day to kind of get used to the remote.
But tell the people what she said.
Oh, that's right. Well,
this was interesting. I did not anticipate this.
And here's the selling point, actually, the remote. Because I said, I was like, well, we've used this for like 2 weeks now. Let's plug the Roku back in. And she's like, no. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I like this. I like the AirTV. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. And I was surprised because Android, she's not a fan of the Android phone.
Yeah.
She's
an Apple person like me.
Well, she's I want it to just do what it's supposed to do and not have to mess with it at all.
An Apple person like me.
Right.
That's what Apple... So here's the thing that when I used to do development, like software development stuff, and I, only so much, but... And systems deployment... the thing I would point to, and this was back like iPhone 3 days, I would point to as like the height of design was that phone. And I'd say, look, this is how you design something. Mm-hmm. I never, ever, ever read the instructions.
Nope.
These people...
The instructions on an iPhone, it's like
Yeah.
It's like less than an index card.
Well, in the instructions on the iPhone 3, which was an actual book.
Oh, when it came out? Now you get like a little piece of paper.
Back in the day, it was a book, but it was basically like padding for the phone because no one ever read it, which is why they went to the note card. But where I was going was like, I would point to the phone and be like, look, this is how you design something. This is how you design a solution. These people recognize that I am so stupid that I shouldn't even have to read to be able to use it. There is a picture of a phone. There is a picture of a clock.
No one wants to read.
Yeah, what do I want to read for?
No, but I mean, electronics instructions. No one wants to read that.
Well, I don't even want to read the little word on the phone that says phone. Why would I want that?
Before Apple figured this out, because now everything's kind of trying to do that.
Yeah.
But before Apple figured this out, everyone would get a device, you'd turn it on, you'd power it up, you'd spend 10 minutes until you get frustrated because you can't get anything to work, and then you read. That used to be the process.
Apple was one of the first consumer products to figure this out, but now everyone's caught on,
right?
And I'm not sure they were the first, but they were one of.
It's the one that I remember.
But it was this particular thing is that back in the day, you'd get a device, whatever it was, back in like an MP3 player or so on, and you'd have to set it down. You're all excited, right?
Right.
Oh, I got this new thing, and I'm going to go use it. Oh, nope. I got to set it down for 4 hours for it to charge. All right. So now they actually send it off the assembly line fully charged so you can rock and roll when you get it. And it's just, so that's design is my point. And that's what struck me about the story you were saying with Allison, where it's like, hey, the AirTV, I get it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just simple.
It really comes down like the point. I was like, why? Why do you like the AirTV so much? And it really came down to the remote.
But that's
it. But that's such like a simple, easy thing.
Why do people like the Macs? Well, back in the day, it was just the fonts were a big distinction. Right?
She likes that out of the box. It just worked with her TV.
Yeah,
and that was enough for her. And that's really
a lot.
When you look at streaming devices, there's not a lot of separation there.
Nope.
There's not a lot of things you
largely
can do.
A commodity.
Yeah. It really is because, responsiveness of menu and load time is really the only two things that are really going to be able to set one apart from the other.
Yeah, the only other thing that ever irks me about like any streaming service that I've ever used is some have better, like I really like Amazon's interface. I think Amazon has a really good one. I think Netflix is probably better, but they're both really good. But you go look at some of the others like HBO Go and so on.
Yeah.
They're clearly pushing certain shows so they will be omnipresent when you first open them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, I didn't come to see reruns of Games of Thrones, right? I wanted to scroll through your movies and see if there's anything so I don't have to go rent something from Amazon, right? Like, so get me to the menu, right? Like, get me to the search bin.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, like, streaming devices are very, very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that they saw that is kind of, it's smart. They're like, where can we make a difference? And they put a lot of thought into ease of use and making a remote that works with your television.
Yeah.
Another thing, a lot of the stuff that you're used to, like some strong points, they borrowed from Roku. Like they put a button on the top of the AirTV that will ping the remote if you lost it. If you have kids, it's really handy.
That is brilliant.
Roku came up with that.
Yeah, I think I raved about that when we talked about it.
And so there's that. And then you have connection, when it comes to actual content, you have connection to the Google Play Store. So anything you own in Google Play, you can get to show up there. You can install, Hulu.
Yep.
It comes, Netflix is, right now Netflix is kind of baked in and it shows up at the bottom of the menu, like any apps you add. Right now, really, it's just Sling TV and Netflix. Netflix will get its own row in the Sling TV interface.
It's nice.
But underneath of that will give you apps that you want to check out. So if you install Hulu, HBO Now, which you probably wouldn't do if you have Sling TV because you can get that through there. So. But, Crackle, what have you. I have an HD. This is kind of redundant function. I mean, writing about cord cutting, I have a ton of cord cutting devices.
Yeah, you've got quite a few, yeah.
But I have an HD home run, which basically takes your antenna signal and connects it to your router and throws it over your network. So
Again, is amazing.
Yeah, so you can watch, I can watch, antenna TV on my iPhone.
Yep.
But since the AirTV brings that in, the redundancy is using the HD home run app.
Yep.
Because I don't need an antenna at that point.
No, unless you're on your iPhone or whatever.
Right, but I mean, I can watch it. Like, I don't need to plug my antenna even into the the AirTV.
Right.
Because I have HD home run. So that's a point. And I think they recognize that some people do have those devices. So you can actually buy this without the antenna adapter. They sell it in 2 flavors.
Really?
Yeah. It's $129 if you buy it, because it's really just, it plugs into a USB port is all it does, and you connect your antenna to that. But if you have like a device like an HD home run or some other tuner that connects onto your network, you can just buy the device itself, and that's $99. So cool. Yeah. And if you buy the device and you want it later, I think you can buy the adapter separate for like $40.
I remember that. You actually did say that before.
Yeah. So, I mean, they really did kind of, think it through. Like, what if somebody has, they don't want to, it's basically an Android box with an antenna adapter.
And and that kind of thinking through you're describing is where I'm hoping, and I do think a lot of companies are heading, because, the old model is kind of cramming, like bundling, right?
Right.
Even going back to Microsoft and the suits back in the day meaning the lawsuits of them bundling, IE in the operating system and so on. You get to the point where people are starting to go, hey, give the consumer some flexibility, they'll give you a little extra loyalty.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I kind of personally love my Roku, right? And it will take a little while for me to give that up, but,
yeah. Well, and here's the other downfall, because the first downfall was being Sling heavy. Like, kind of, it is. When you first turn it on, it's a bit kind of confusing, but you get used to it, and it's all right. The second thing, because we're an Amazon family, we have a lot of Amazon content. Amazon is not native in Android TV.
Really?
You can't install it natively.
Because that's a big deal. I mean, like, with Roku.
Well, here's the thing, though. There is something called, and this is another plus, there's something called Chromecast built-in. Mm-hmm. Android TV kind of works as a Chromecast. So if you have any device with Chrome and you put the Chrome extension on it, you can cast it to the AirTV.
Oh.
So if you have Amazon on, say, a laptop or
iPad or
whatever,
right,
you can basically use the Chrome browser, Google Chrome, and cast it onto your television. That also works with if you want to show a web browser.
Does it cost you any bandwidth?
No, that's all on your local stuff. That's a local network.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, even if you're on a website and you just want to put that on your TV, you can just cast it to your television through the AirTV, because it's a technology that Google came up with called, it used to be called Google Cast, and now it's just called Chromecast built-in. That also works with any app that works with Chromecast. You can just cast that right to the AirTV.
And you do it through the Chrome extensions.
Well, if you're using Chrome, the Chrome browser, you just have to install the extension for Chromecast built in. And then it'll work. You'll be able to cast anything off your browser to it.
Yeah.
So that's one way of doing it. Now, until like a week ago, there's something called side loading, and I kind of covered this in the jailbreaking Amazon Fire TV stick thing. There's a way where you can actually load this. You used to be able to load Amazon Prime by the actual file itself. You would have to get some other file that opened up you'd have to get some other app that opened up the operating system of your Android TV or your AirTV, and then you could like manually install Prime, and it would work, and you could actually watch it, but the interface, since it's not really meant to be there, was kind of clunky.
Right.
But it would work. But they just, like a week ago, they just kind of shut every place down that was giving away the install files to do this. And I think the reason is they just released a version for the NVIDIA Shield, which is another Android TV box.
Right.
So I'm thinking it'll probably be available soon to come on AirTV. That's my guess. Just because they've already released a version, but it's only available through the Amazon store, and you can't really access that from the AirTV. You can only access the Google Play Store.
Right.
So,
but time will tell on that.
I'm thinking it'll be soon. I mean, it's been a long time coming because they went on Apple TV, but they are on iOS, but they've never been on Android TV.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah, and actually, I think the device is great, and I recommend it. That's that's a big weakness.
Yeah.
That's huge. If you have any Amazon content, it's going to be difficult to watch natively on the AirTV unless you're casting it from a computer.
We were
or a phone.
actually talking about this earlier, that a ton of people have Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
Just from the shipping.
Right. Exactly. It pays for itself.
That's kind of a big drawback.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's really the thing. That's like the one thing that doesn't make this my favorite device.
Sure.
I'm probably
Everything else sounds great.
Yeah, I'm probably still Roku. If I'm going to recommend a cord cutting device for someone, it's going to be a Roku. If they can get this Amazon thing straightened out, then I'd probably say AirTV.
Okay. But that's good.
Yeah. So I give it a recommend. I'd like if I was going to give it I'd give it 4 out of 5 Ajits if I was.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot of Ajits.
It is. Good Ajits.
Yeah, good Ajits, not bad Ajits.
So that music's telling me it's time to wrap this up. All right, I'm Dennis Rostaro.
And this is Joel Reed.
And we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
I'm going to cut your take care.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I'm cutting it. It's gone.
That's it.
It's out of here. You want to fight?
Yeah. Out in the parking lot.
Thank you for listening. If you have some questions or comments or just want to contact the show, you can contact us by email. The email address is podcast@groundedreason.com. Also, follow us on Twitter. That's another way you can get a hold of us and get your question in. The handle is @groundedreason. We also have a Facebook page, and you can even call us and leave a message if you like. All that information on how to contact us is in the show notes. As we said in this episode, please subscribe in iTunes because it gives us visibility, which means we go up in the rankings, people see the show, more people listen, and we're guaranteed to stick around longer. Another way you can help us out is by leaving a 5-star review in iTunes. Only do that if you like the show. If you hate the show, I don't want you to lie. So, but we'd really appreciate it, even if you did lie. I'm not asking you to lie, but if you want to fill out a review, please do. Again, I want to thank everyone out there for all the support we've been getting. You guys have been fantastic. Also, please let your friends and your family know about the show. Word of mouth is a great way to get the podcast out there. And yeah, that about wraps everything up. So join us next Monday, and Joel and I will probably be chit-chatting about the FCC once again. Hope not, but maybe. See you next time, guys.